Hello, give me 2 seconds. What is this? I don't need that. Live stream is up and running. Everybody should be able to see me. Let me just quickly open up my chat so that I can see that as well if people join in. Welcome. Welcome to another stream. Today I'm just going to sit down and produce a little bit. I have to work on this track over here. I need to get this close to a finished production as well. Jonas, welcome to the stream. Thank you for stopping by. You're the first one today. We're just getting started. I guess what I can do is just play the whole track and just have for myself like a listening session. What I could do is quickly mute my mic so I can hear them on my monitors, this track, and you guys can just normally hear it as well. I don't know if that's a better idea. I think it's maybe a better idea because the rest of the session I'll listen on headphones to probably listen everything on headphones. So yeah, I'm going to do that actually. Hello Ras. Ras, Dani, welcome to the stream. Thank you for watching it all. Need one more like one shot over here, kind of where it's bending into. Slightly changed the warping on that vocal over there. I'm not sure if I like it. I need to find a good rhythm for a vocal like that. That kind of harmonizes well with the actual track. Some more stereo work on that vocal over there. Obviously some more stuff just needs to happen over here. Snare feels a little bit big here as well. Maybe I'll make it a little bit smaller. I'm not entirely sure if I want to go into the vocal like this. I need to think about that, how I would transition into that. I don't necessarily want to make this track any longer than it is right now, but I do want to keep that vocal in there, so that would be the only spot where it could go. Congratulations for new items. Thank you. Bobby, welcome as well. To be honest, I think the part that is like the rolling bass line, I guess, the whole part, starting from here, is a little bit weak right now. I much prefer this part over the second part here. Obviously, I've done more work on this part. Let's first try to fix that snare. Let's see. I need to turn on the menu thingy. There we are. It's a little bit of a nasty click to it, I guess. Still waiting for the secret tea recipe. Speaking about tea, I think this one that I have over here went a little bit wrong because it is very vicious. Like, can you see how long? It looks like it's oil, which is very funny if I look at it like this, because it looks like I'm drinking oil. I don't know what went wrong here. It doesn't like taste bad or anything. I don't think it has gone bad. It's just maybe the specific tea that I use does this, or I cannot imagine that I put so much honey into one of these things that it actually makes 2 liters of water like this viscous. But it you can taste it even that it's like thicker than normal water. And you can just see it in everything, how it like moves around in the bottle and in the glass as well when you're drinking it. Or piss. Yeah, it does look like that as well, I guess. If that's what you see, then I'm sorry for you, but your mind is a little bit corrupted, I think. Anyway, I want this snare to be a little bit tighter in some parts as well. It still has like a nasty tock sound to it. There. There it can work like that. There's this other thing that I want to fix quickly. Just adding some reverb to it maybe. It's a particularly strange sounding reverb. Overall, the sound design here is a little bit that sounds a lot better, I think. Do you like just add water to powdered tea? No. Can it be that, yeah, the age of the bottle? Because I think I may have used this like once or twice now. It's not much older than that, so I don't think it will be too much of a problem. Also, what I wouldn't recommend and what I hear a lot of people talk about is don't drink directly from the bottle, because the bacteria is that how you say it? Bacteria from your saliva gets into the bottle, and that's really bad for doing stuff like this. If I become sick in the next few days, you guys will know why. I think I want this to be a little bit tighter. Yeah, a little bit pluckier. I mean, do you like granulated tea? Just add water and mix. So I used to drink that, the iced tea like package. I think I might still have a package, which is basically just like sugar and that powder stuff that then turns into, I guess, the flavor in the drink. But I started doing it this way because there's less sugar in it doing it this way, the way that I'm making it myself. Which is literally actually making tea with like actual tea bags, just with cold water and making it longer because the colder water takes longer to absorb all of the tea stuff. Hello, Davey. Welcome to the stream. No, but when I say that there's like a secret tea recipe, there is like an actual recipe for it. And it's not just, oh, mix this powder with water or mix this other thing with water. There is a few steps to it in doing it properly. Also, like washing the bottle in a proper way before you use it and stuff like that, making sure that there's like hot water going through it that cleans everything out. I kind of want to move on to this part over here. The first thing that I notice is that I'm not sure if I'm a fan of the drums in here. I don't think that I want these. I'm just gonna delete stuff. One of the things I need to be careful about here in this project is the track amount. I don't want to get too high with the amount of different sounds and different tracks that I add, because I've found that doing that just makes it take longer in the mixing process and like the finalizing process, and it doesn't tend to add a lot of extra like stuff to the track. I know you are adding more ideas and more sounds, but that doesn't mean that the track becomes better. We also have orchestral drums. It's all kind of like doing it in a very basic way, in that I do kick and bass, orchestral drums on top, and then the only thing that is special here is the fact that the melody is kind of like building up here, right, with the way that I've set up the static and everything. I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of how I'm doing it now. What if we just do the melody? Chizzy Wizzy and Jointler, welcome, welcome. I do like that. I do think that there needs to be a few extra textures and stuff like that in here now as well. Or maybe we have to do it like this. Is this your own project or are you criticizing someone else's? A little bit of both, in that this is my own project, but I'm still criticizing it. Do you think having kids will hinder your creativity? I have no idea. I assume it will, because when you have kids, you tend to spend a lot of time with them, you know, especially the first few years. Everybody that I know in the production space that has had kids has said, like, I need to scale down my touring, I need to scale down what I do in terms of production. Eclip, I think, has talked about this as well. So, yeah. But to be honest, I think any change in the way that you're living will change or hinder your creativity, because you get out of the flow of normal things. I actually don't have my microphone in the right spot. You should hear me a little bit better now. Hopefully. But yeah, as I said, I think that any change in the way that you're living, like I remember moving to this apartment from the other apartment and it just taking a week to get back into the flow of things. And I assume that when you're having a much bigger impact in your life than moving, like having children, for example, that the impact on your creativity will be higher as well, yeah. There's a few sounds in here that I need to fix up a little bit. This one is a bit too mono. Very strange stereo field, doesn't it? Having kids. Did I say something else? Did I say something wrong? I might have. That means that that part of the live stream is going to get cut from the recap that I'm doing now. There's sounds in here that I don't particularly like. I think this one over here is that weird chord thing. Yeah, the wow. It's a bit strange. I guess both sounds are a little bit strange. We can see if we can make something new for that. Because this is the first sound that people hear when we go back into the drop. So this sound needs to work, this sound needs to hit. Cannot be like a filler kind of sound, you know what I mean? Sometimes you can get away with a sound that isn't... You don't spend too much attention on it. It's not exactly how you want it to be. But in this case, when it's the first sound that you hear in the new section of the drop, it definitely needs to, you know, be good. I don't remember if I wrote this in F sharp or G sharp, and I am not musically capable enough to hear which of the keys it is. Yes, we're in F sharp. Let's see if we can just put this on the offbeat. I want its release to be shorter, I guess. Or is there like a 1 beat delay on this somewhere? Why is it still delaying? Like the release is... Ah, this is mod envelope. Aha. That's what I want. I want to combine this with a different sound, I guess, towards the end here. Let's do a vital. I kind of just want like a very crispy band pass down, I think. I believe there's ways to do that. Let's first of all get a good tone here. Can I not do this? Does that not work? It only works one way, I guess. It only works backwards. That's funny. Maybe I need to update the vital that I'm using. 1.5.3. I don't know if there's a newer version available. Maybe that is what is causing the issue then. Anyway, okay, I believe there's something with the spectral filter that you can do. If you put it very small, you get like a... yeah, that kind of tone. But I want to be able to skip through a whole bunch of tones, so I'm just going to... well, that's kind of what I want. Nice SSQ style sound, I guess. Let's set up a macro for this. I want to use 2 voices, a little bit of detune. And I guess the idea is to like slowly fade into it, like this maybe. And then... something like that. I like that. Having limited time makes every session more productive. Personally, I guess that would work, yeah. What I found is anytime I go like home to my parents or go on vacation or anything like that, the weeks leading up to that, I tend to be more productive because I need to get like all of the videos ready for you guys that you have to watch in those times. And I feel when I'm under pressure, I'm much better at performing in that regard, like just quickly making videos or quickly editing or anything like that. And I guess the same is true for music. To be honest, anytime I am very busy in the near future, I will not spend a lot of time on music, and I much rather spend like when I have a lot of time, I much rather spend time on the music. Because I do feel that with the way that I like to write, taking a slow approach to it in terms of not being stressed about the time that you have to work on a track usually gets me better results. Ah, that's right, I was doing some strange stuff with the kick and bass delay over here, which I don't think I need anymore. Unless I'm using it somewhere else. No. Because I'm turning that off, the kick now. I'm no longer using the kick, so we can get rid of that delay there as well. Honestly, it sounds better without all of the build-up elements, just focusing a lot more on the melody itself. Oh yeah, you cannot play if you're listening here. I do want to slightly change the melody, maybe. Honestly, I feel like it's a little bit strange in terms of its texture. I'm not entirely sure where it's coming from. So this is the format kind of thing. Might just come from the wavetable that I'm using over here. Let's see if we can isolate it. I think it's those two things combined. The first oscillator that we were using there and the like strange filter on here, the FPHS 12 HL6 Plus filter, I guess. That made that very strange like vowel texture that I don't like. But honestly, now that we're left with the melody, it also doesn't sound good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to see what happens if we just have this going on like full blast all the way. Let's see what this is, by the way. Nothing. Here we can do some FM setup and then just add like a gritty tone to it. How was the setup again? Was it? Guess there's a lot of processing in here, isn't there? A little bit of stereo wave, a little bit of echo, a little bit of reverb, and removing lower frequencies. I think we can do something cool here with the phase, changing the phase. Hello Guido, welcome to the stream. I still cannot find the right spot for my microphone that I can see both the chat as well as not like hit the microphone when I'm typing on my keyboard. Let's see here. A little bit of a boring sound now, isn't it? I'm looking for more grittiness from it, I guess. Let's try something here. Let's duplicate it and let's see if we can use this thing over here. This is like a Virus TI emulator. It might wreak havoc on my CPU, but we shall see. Alright, you want to go into bank A and then init. I wonder which wave it then uses. Here as well. Here it uses this waveform over here. Like I've set it to wave over here, so I'm assuming that I can select which of these waves it uses, but I guess not. We're just going to set up a wave setting over here, and then we'll do like something like this. Then I want to go high pass over here. I want everything to go into filter 1. I want saturation to be strong. And I want to push it into that saturation, I guess. Maybe I can push it into it just with the level over here. I ordered some video lights today. Nice. Never seen this. Is this newish? It isn't new. You can see my build version is from last year or 2 years ago. So this is not very new. It is not something that I often use. It is pretty hard on the CPU, and it's also very unintuitive for anybody that doesn't own like a virus, I guess. Because it isn't a hard synth for me to understand. But it does sound good. I guess this is kind of the tone that I'm going for. I just need it to be louder and grittier, but we can do that with effects. I don't know if I want to go too over the top with the distortion that I'm going to put on here. Let's go with like an overdrive. My light at the moment is only a living room light, so my cam is a bit flickering. To be honest, for me, it is the same. Part of your quality of the camera is going to be the lighting that you use, right? So how many lights you've set it up, how you've positioned them and stuff like that. And I've spent a lot of time getting the lighting to work over here. The easiest way to fix any lighting issues is that you just need more light. That's the cold hard truth, right? About like actual lighting. The other issue that you can have is the camera that you're using. So it's like 50-50. A terrible camera in a like well lit up studio, like actual photography studio. If you come to a photography studio with all of the best lights in the world and you take a crappy camera, then it's not going to be good. But if you take the guy who works there, his camera, and you put it into a room that is way too dark, it's also not going to be good. So you have to balance the two out. These are all old ideas. I am going to delete those so that I don't get stuck in them. This is gonna go, those effect thingies that I'm doing somewhere over here are going to go. That sounds terrible. This sounds terrible as well, like very, very thin. There's a lot of stuff that I need to redo here. Tend to think it's pretty much just as important as what camera you use, if not more. Maybe it's even more, yes. Like a decent webcam for $100 is going to perform better, or that's okay, but I guess like crappy lighting has much more influence on it. You can make a bad camera look decent enough if the lighting is okay, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. So maybe lighting is slightly more important than the camera that you're using. To be honest, I'm kind of happy with both. The only issue that I've had a lot of people talk about is that my background, they don't like how bright it is behind me, which I kind of get, but coming from the old situation in which I had like that black cloth with the artwork on it behind me hanging, that felt very dark and very uninviting, whereas the brightness feels very nice and very happy. So that's kind of the feeling that I want to go for. Have you ever produced full-on like electro sun dit / dust? Probably not. The type of track that you hear me make is always going to be this kind of style here, unless it is for some kind of tutorial or something like that. And even in that case, the only track that I really produced was the Cambium style track. To be honest, I'm not familiar with the name that you cited there, but the Cambium track sounds very like this, I guess. I can play a quick bit of it. So if this is the kind of sound that you're after, then yes. Otherwise, it won't be this. very dark, very glitchy, that kind of stuff, and playing in D sharp. Hello Asset, welcome to the stream. How are you doing? We were working over here, right? Yes. Here, and then going into the breakdown over here. What I like here is the flute playing over here. And I think what I want to do is play a little bit more with that. Okay, so this thing I don't like. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of the squelch here anymore. This can go later, maybe. That's more like Dark Forest. It most certainly is not. Forest tends to be more including forest sounds, like, you know, the sampled sounds from the actual forest. And the BPM tends to be higher, towards the 160 BPM. This track over here is 145 BPM, maybe 147. So it's definitely in the full-on range there. And you can also hear, just in the kick and bass style, if I play it again, that it has that kick and bass that has a lot of higher frequencies. Whereas Forest tends to focus on the kick and bass that mainly has more lower frequencies. Overall, just like the way it's arranged, the way that the drums are played as well, in that it's just kind of like your normal full on the floor drum pattern, just like we have over here. All of that suggests to me that it's not Forest and that it's more a full-on track here. It's just the kind of full-on track that you would hear Cambium make. You know, that very complex, very strong kind of full-on. I was trying to find a space where I could hear the kick and bass on its own. Maybe the outro has it. Not really. There's a few spots like here as well. I guess this is a good example. I might be mistaken in my styles. I might also be mistaken, but from what I know about Forest, there's a few very strong differences between what I was making and normal kind of Forest Psy. I think overall, the whole like talk about subgenres and people swearing by one subgenre over another or something like that, I don't really subscribe to that kind of thing. Like, I'm not sitting here and saying, oh, you need to listen to high tech or otherwise it's not real psytrance, or if you're not listening to Dark Side, what you're doing, you know, that kind of stuff that you hear on internet forums. I hate that kind of stuff. Personally, just listen to the music that you like, express yourself, write the kind of music that you like. Don't put it in a label. Like, don't put a genre on it. A label is always nice because they help you, you know, put it out. But that's a different discussion. But overall, like, the idea that a genre is just this one thing, I guess, is also not something that I subscribe to, because there's different BPMs, there's different influences that somebody takes. Somebody can make a Forest track that sounds very, very dark, and another Forest track can sound very bright and uplifting, and both of them would be considered Forest, I guess. What the hell is happening over here? Why is there extra crashes there? But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what genre it is. At the end of the day, especially now with the way that streaming services and stuff like that works, it's more about just getting plays and stuff like that, rather than sticking to a specific genre. Of course, as an individual, you do want to continuously make the same kind of music, the same kind of style, so that people who follow you for that kind of music know what to expect. I love that mindset. That's why I don't really tend to keep up with one style / genre for my own tracks. Yeah, so as I was saying, personally, I do think that from a marketability standpoint, it is nice to have one style, have one genre that you're making, which is what I'm doing. As you guys can probably tell, like I make semi-progressive, semi-full-on, kind of like in the middle, I would say, in that I like to play a lot with a lot of melodic elements. I like to play a lot with themes and ideas in my track, as opposed to just cool synth sounds that are playing. But I do require my track to have some of that high energy, high like psychedelicness sound design in there as well. So I kind of want to fuse the two ideas together. And from a marketability standpoint, from somebody who wants to, you know, make music that people actually listen to continuously, and people who follow me will follow me for this kind of style. So for that reason, I do personally stick to one genre, stick to one style. And I tend to think that tracks could also somewhat sit in the middle of different subgenres. Yes, exactly. That's what I think said before, or at least that was what I was trying to say. In that within a different subgenre, there's so much space that you can see it as like a bubble, right? So here's forest sci, here we have dark sci, here we have high tech. There's going to be like boundaries between them. I guess I could draw this a little bit better. I guess I could whip up the little canvas over here that you guys probably all know if you follow the stream. But you have like forest sci over here, and then dark sci will be closely related to that. You can sit like on the boundary, right? It's hard to argue that you're either of the genres here. So this is dark sci, and this is forest. You can sit exactly in here, and then there will be, I don't know, high tech will be like over here or something like that, and then there will be the, I guess, full on would be here-ish, because full on is closely related to both forest and dark sci. And then progressive tends to be brighter, but it also tends to use a lot of samples and a lot of, sometimes some foresty elements. So I guess we could put full on or the progressive stuff over here. This was full on. This is just like my way of thinking about the different subgenres. This would be high tech. And then what I like to differentiate between is the kind of progressive that Asterix makes and the kind of progressive that an artist like OmniKey or Neelix makes. And that second version, I call that prog, right? Which is the progressive stuff that doesn't necessarily revolve around slowly building up, which is the original definition of progressive, but it focuses more on kind of taking everything from other EDM genres, from big room, from drum and bass. Usually there's like a vocal involved, and they just put a kick and bass under that for psytrance. So that would be like prog. So this is all within psytrance, but then you could argue like, okay, then here there would be just like normal EDM or big room or whatever. I guess I could call big room I literally gave myself the least amount of space to write this. EDM. Right, so you could kind of identify it like that. There's always going to be boundaries between where it's one or the other. There's always going to be boundaries here. There's going to be, oh, is this really full on? Does this have a little bit more progressive? Personally, I would like to say that I am right about here in this area with the way that I write. But there's going to be other artists that going to, I don't know, going to go from here to here, and they're going to do a little bit of progressive and something like this, and maybe they have like a big room project that they have under a different name, right? So everybody can kind of draw a circle in a diagram like this on what they all do in terms of different things. in terms of different genres. From a marketability standpoint, I think that being very close, like being very big in terms of what you do, is a bad idea if you just purely want to have people follow you for the music that you make, because people might enjoy this part of your discography but not enjoy this part of your discography, and therefore not listen to, for example, an album of yours or a playlist of yours. Even from electro house complexo sometimes. I guess that's what I mean by like big room EDM, or the standard kind of EDM. It all the different genres that together form electronic music. And technically speaking, psytrance also falls under the umbrella term EDM, right? The funniest thing at the end of the day is that all of this does not matter. Just write the music that you want to write. The only reason why it matters is it is handy for the listener to identify what they're doing, or what they're listening to, I guess. And therefore, who to follow as an artist, what do they like, which, if an artist make this kind of music, do I like that kind of music? Looking at the subgenre that they have, yes, I like that subgenre, let's follow this artist. It's handy for the listener, but it's not really handy from a producer. Because at the end of the day, it is a limit having this kind of bubble around, and if you fall outside of the bubble, then it's no longer called that. There's only good music and bad music and Taylor Swift. Are you suggesting that Taylor Swift is either better than good or worse than bad? Because whatever you're suggesting, there's going to be like 4 levels, right? You're going to have the highest level, and then you're going to have good, you're going to have bad, and then Taylor Swift is over here, and this level doesn't exist. EDM was never a genre. It's an umbrella term for multiple different genres, I guess, then. It would be the same as saying like guitar music, right? Any genre that uses guitar a lot, like rock, from rock to metal to heavy metal, all of those things are technically different genres or subgenres of metal or hard rock or whatever you want to call it. But guitar music would be the overarching umbrella term that like is everything. Just like EDM is for any music that is made in a DAW and is danceable. That is a global bucket that you can put any club music into. To be honest, I think it's more than that, because you have stuff from electro swing, which will probably never be played at the club, to what's the other called, that very high BPM stuff? Overtone. Overtone technically fits all of the descriptions of electronic dance music, or of EDM, right? But it will never be played at a club. It's kind of funny that whenever you're setting boundaries like that, whenever you're talking about genres like this, there's always something that falls just outside of the definition that you just made, that if you think about it, actually should fall in the definition that you just gave, right? So overtone, technically you could argue you cannot really dance to it, but I would say, yeah, it's EDM for sure. It wouldn't be played in a club. Nobody in their right mind would go to a club where overtone is played. I don't think I can play you anything in with the copyright, but you should look that up. If you don't know what overtone is, you're in for a very cool surprise, I guess. It's often used in the wrong way when people only refer to big room or festival trap. Yes, the popular stuff grabs all of the attention. That is true. And then the popular stuff becomes synonymous with it being all that is available in a specific genre. I don't think that that's an EDM specific problem, though. I think that is a problem that happens everywhere, including like outside of music even. let's get back into it. Let's see here. Here I think I also want the thinner snare. There's a lot of one-shots in here that I don't like anymore. This one is terrible. Maybe this is the kind of sound that would work in here, actually. Because I do need a sound, I think, that works in here. A little bit louder. Thanks for the impromptu lecture. You're welcome. That's exactly what you do. Did you get any problems with the last React? Yes, I got 2 copyright claims. Video is going to come very, very soon. I have recorded it. I have edited it. I just need to do I did the first cut of the edit. I just need to do the secondary cut, and then all of the effects, like putting the face cam where it needs to be, showing up graphics and all of that. And there's 2 other videos that are probably going to come out before that. But it is in the works, the video that's going to explain the whole situation and hopefully make everybody aware of why this is happening and how you can prevent it as an artist. Because it is getting to the point where it becomes really annoying. For those that don't know what he's talking about, whenever I do feedback streams, which is technically what it is, I don't like the word reaction because it ties together with people like XQC just sitting down and not saying anything while a YouTube video is playing and just going like, you know, like that, or they just leave. At the end, that's kind of what it signifies for me to react to something. I'm giving feedback. I'm actively listening. I'm trying to figure out problems. I'm using my expertise to provide new information to the people that submit their music. Did you know which part of the life it was because of me? It maybe, if you did cause any issues, you would have gotten a Discord DM from me by now, I think. I may not have checked the last one yet. Because at this point I get them on every stream. DJ Alligator is the person that caused the issue with the track Follow Me. And I think I messaged them about this. Right? Yes. I don't know if that's you or not. If it is, then check your Discord and you will find out. I like that. What I don't think I want to do is continue this synth to play over here. I might want to have it delay out. Reaction videos are very lame. Yes. I think I talked about this before. I edit for a YouTuber called Dark Viper AU, and he is vividly against reaction content, and that's where I get a lot of my stances from as well on like the ethical ways of handling somebody else's art, because at the end of the day that's what they're doing, right? They're taking a video which somebody put a lot of work into, which is an art form, right? Making a video in the same way that making music is it is an art form to create a proper video, because the videos that they usually steal are not the ones that get 1 or 2 views on YouTube made by some kid in their bedroom with fraps installed playing Minecraft and one of those cringy gamer intros. If you know, you know. Been there, I guess. I used to be that kind of child. But it's the stuff by channels like Let Me Know. Do you know that channel? I'll not play any of the video, but I'll show you the channel. If you don't know this channel, then you're in for a surprise. Because this is really good. This is a really good channel. He does like hour-long documentations here, 1.5 hour long, a 1 hour long documentation on Jack the Ripper. This is all animated by himself. He does all of the scoring by himself. He does all of the research by himself. Like, this is part of the video, right? So this is showing what is happening in the video. Look at the details that are in here. Making something like that is an art form. And to just steal that and upload it to your own channel, or to react to it, which doesn't transform it in any way, it's very lame. It's a very weird way of going about things. What key is this track? F sharp. Yes, exactly. I need some sweep up in here, I think. Do I have one of those little sweeps already ready, I guess? No, it's not that. Is it these? No. I think I need to import that. I always check to see if it's there, so that I don't have the same sample on 2 different tracks, because that doesn't really make a lot of sense. But there's this one sample that I tend to use a lot when I need to do like one of those quick transitions. Something like this, and then just cut out the reverb part. I guess it's just a little detail thing. We can make it a little bit more prominent by taking another one into it as well. A little bit lower. I don't mind the review, but the reaction videos don't add anything. Yeah. And not only that, it actively hurts the people that are spending the time making, you know, original content. Because those that make reaction videos, they can pump out 20 of them a day without getting tired. Because all you have to do is just literally go like this, sit there, and say something like, that's funny, that's good. That's all a reaction video is. It's nothing more, right? It's bottom of the barrel, the laziest kind of content that you can make. Because in order to make a reaction video of something that, or to react to a video that is 1 hour long, it takes you 1 hour of time. Like, you can pause occasionally if you want to be fancy and say something, but that doesn't change the fact that you're just taking somebody else's content, taking the whole thing and just re-uploading it to YouTube or streaming it to Twitch or whatever. It's dumb, and it takes away creativity, because you're competing. At the end of the day, YouTube is a game about numbers. If you put out more videos, you're going to get more views. And therefore, they're competing with people that cannot keep up with that pace. right? Why would you go to Lemino's channel, the guy that I showed earlier, if instead you can go to XQC's channel or Asmongold or whoever you want as the reactor, and you can see Lemino's video and a whole bunch more videos that he reacted to that day. It's dumb. It's strange that it's even allowed. It's just pure copyright infringement. I want to do maybe a little kick fill in here. Pam padam padam. Right? This was not the rhythm that I had initially in mind, but I guess it works well with the track here. I do need to clean this up a little bit. I could hear the little clickies happening there. This one and this one. I think I want this one to be longer so that it goes to the lower frequency. Because this kick just barely doesn't arrive at the frequency that I want it to. What is your opinion on remixes? Is it not similar to reactions? It is similar, but at the end of the day, a remix, you have to put in roughly the same amount of work in order to get like a new proper remix than the original took. There are like gradients in it, right? You sometimes have a remix where somebody takes a pop song that is huge, puts a kick and bass under it, and calls it a new remix from that track and gets millions of views. I'm not so sure I like that, but at the end of the day, that still involves work, right? The second thing is it depends on like the permissions that you get. If you get permission from the original artist, like, yeah, you can use my stuff for what you're doing, then there's not a lot of things that I can say on that being wrong. You get permission from the original content creator to use their work, and then you can make something new out of that. A reaction really isn't like a remix in video form. A reaction is just you take something, usually unsolicited, right? They won't ask for permission first, like, yo, can I take your video and show it on my stream? They'll never ask that, because they know if they ask permission, most of the YouTubers are not going to be dumb and they're not going to say yes. But in a remix, if you're doing a remix properly, if you like go up to the artist and say, hey, I want to remix your stuff, can I remix your stuff? Then yeah, then there's a difference there, because you ask for permission. There's a huge difference between officially licensed remix and illegal bootleg remixes. Yes. And that's why you almost never see me do a remix unless I can be assured that I can, you know, contact the artist and both asking them for like, yo, can I have the stems? Can I have all of the stuff that you use to make the project? And also when I'm releasing it, even if it's a year later, like I did with Synux, the live remix, right? That's the kind of guy that I could always, you know, chat to. I had him on Discord. It's a guy that I talked before. That's okay, because I know that I can contact him if there's something wrong, if there's any issues, if there's any licensing disagreement, like if I were to get claimed on that video or something like that. Then I can always go like, no, but I've written here that I have permission from him. I feel like we need maybe a crash here, but the crash is too intense, maybe. Right, what if we take like a very long sweep? I'm okay with this sweep, but it's like very loud here. Let me just find a new one. One that's maybe a little bit longer as well. Need another kind of little one shot over here. Kind of announce that. Just maybe like a low kind of wobble thingy happening over here. I like that. Sounds very, very good. I don't think I like the fact that it stops here early, I guess. It sounds like it should... Maybe I should do it like this. You know what I mean? Here, now it sounds too disconnected, but if I place this one in here, it sounds too connected. Maybe I should just make this, for this one particular part, the note longer. That kind of works. You don't really need that part, man. You can hear the sound kind of attacking in, even in the reversed one. So I really don't want that. I want it to really snap here. I guess this overall needs a bit more. Why does that first one have no higher frequencies there? Does it just not have any? I guess. Also the tuning, something I didn't check. Lucky for me, it is properly tuned. Or at least around where I want it to be, which is F sharp. So I guess the way that I can do this is just like slightly overdrive this. No, wait. I know a trick. You do it with M saturator. And saturating with M saturator allows you to work with the compander here, I think, in this way. And I can just set the craziest saturation that I want, and it will keep the dynamics intact. I would need to find the tutorial in order to do this. What is this guy's name again? The tutorial for this. I found this tutorial a while ago and I've never really found a use for it, but now that I do, I don't know the guy's name. Maybe something like this. Saturation. If I find the thumbnail, I'll know exactly if it's him. Saturation without losing dynamics. Yes. This video over here. I'm going to not react to it, but I'll shout out this guy's channel and I'll put the video in here as well so you guys can subscribe if you haven't. I'm just going to find like a still of the settings that I need.
Ascolta la playlist di Sanremo su Spotify. Attenzione, l'ascolto prolungato può avere effetti collaterali.
While mixing, I often...
So M saturator tutorial over here somewhere.
down. And ratio is the volume envelope from the original sound coming into M saturator. The lower you set the threshold knob, the more it will add dynamics to quieter sounds like the hi-hats. So I want it all the way down. And ratio is how hard the compressor and expander will work. So it's basically just a mix knob. And one last thing to note is that according to...
Okay. So this should be the setup then for my dynamic increase in, or distorting a sound or saturating a sound without changing the dynamics. And there we go, we have higher frequencies now. It's also louder, which is funny. I guess that's because we just have the clipping setting over here. What if we go soft? Clip at end. Right now we're clipping and it's just like clipping off then. Which I guess is okay. I can drive this a bit more. Let's go with like 6 minus 6. So you just get more of that higher frequency stuff. Something like that is what I want. Still, overall, I do feel like this sample is like very fuzzy and it's not really like tight. Do you know what I mean? So maybe one of the things that we can try out is some compression. Just so that we can hit those. I want more attack, I guess. I guess the trick that I can use is the reverse. So this makes it a lot tighter, right? Now if we mix this in, we can get like a semi version of this. You can hear how it's just kind of like ducking it down 3 dB, which is what we can see here on the graph. I guess, no, 6 dB. Yeah, that would make sense, because 6 dB is like 50-50. It would be logarithm or square root of something, or logarithm of something, because dB is a logarithmic scale. Minus 6.07, I think it should say, at 50%. No, 6.02, yeah. Perceived loudness. Saturation is so nice for something, to make something seem louder. Yeah, but that's not exactly what we're doing here. I guess, yeah, technically we're making it louder with the kind of curve that we have over here. But what we're really doing is we're maintaining the dynamics, right? So we're not talking about perceived loudness, we're talking about actual loudness here. So this trick allows you to maintain the dynamics. So it goes into clipping and then it gets the dynamics that it had before that back. So it will still look like this, just more saturated than this, I guess. Sometimes I turn it down afterwards, so I'll gain headroom, but it still seems louder. Yes, because you're boosting it into it. A saturator works just by virtue of you boosting it into it. It's essentially what we're doing here. We're boosting it into this non-linearity. That's what this is called, right? Because this is not linear. A linearity would be something like this. This would map minus 6 dB exactly to minus 6 dB. But if we have a non-linearity, minus 6 dB suddenly becomes minus 3 dB. So it becomes louder. And I guess the other... Is it a requirement of saturation? I don't even think it's a requirement of saturation, but that you clip at a certain level. Like it doesn't go above a certain level whatsoever in terms of how much you drive into it. I don't think that that second thing actually matters for the definition of saturation. What I do know is that this does matter. The fact that you're pushing it into non-linearity, and usually that non-linearity makes it louder just by virtue of it like moving everything up, moving from minus 6 dB to minus 3 dB or minus 2 dB to minus 0.5 dB or whatever that is. Just the fact that you're doing that, the fact that you have that non-linearity makes things louder. So you say even though it's not, but then yes, it is louder. You're boosting it into it and therefore the perceived loudness goes up. If you measure it with LUFS or anything that isn't peak volume, then it should be louder. Maybe I should have this over here. The way you explain things is just so direct with all of the information you need, simply great. I think one of the biggest things that allows me to explain things well, I guess, I get that a lot, right? That you explain better than this other guy that makes tutorials or other people that I know. I think the thing that makes my explanations better, I don't even know if they are, but a lot of people say it to me, so I'm going to assume that they're right. But I think the fact that I've been producing with speakers for 10 years allows me to, has made it so that I've developed a very visual style of just production. Like I use all of the analyzers that I have, right? Anytime I make a kick and bass, I go into the size scope and I just look at what I'm doing in the kick and bass. And the same is true whenever I'm EQing. I tend to just very clearly just use the analyzer that is built in the EQ. To make my decisions. The fact that I'm a very visual kind of producer in that I use a lot of analysis, I guess also translates in that I'm very visual with my explanations. And I think being very visual, explaining something and then also showing it while you're explaining something is just an easier way to teach something. I think the boosted harmonics or overtones make it seem louder. Yes, that's what saturation is. You're increasing the loudness. You're decreasing the peak to RMS ratio. So it becomes louder. What's happening with a saturator, let's go back into that example that we had before. What's happening with a saturator is that it comes in at plus 6 dB. So you make it louder by 6 dB. And then it stops here because it gets clipped off. Together with this non-linearity, which by its very nature takes something that is minus 6 dB and makes it minus 3 dB, is going to make stuff louder. Question: when you group your drums, do you apply EQ, compression, distortion, transient shaper better in parallel? I don't apply anything to this project over here. I might apply some processing in the groups in my mixing. So my mixing projects, for example, in Reaper. Can quickly look at some of that. Reaper is a very nice DAW, so it opens quickly. This is a production. I think I was working on filming something here. Yeah, this is the track Beyond, the track that just released on Eclipse, actually. When it comes to my drum group itself, there's nothing on there. I have a kick group, usually, which is my main kick, and then alternative kicks like kick rolls and kick reverses and stuff like that. In this case, I also have like a head layer that is outside of that group for some reason. And then in this case, on my top loop, which is all of this stuff, this. In this case, I have an EQ and a clipper. So that's what I do. It's going to depend on what the project needs. I was asking in general, yeah, I know, but it's always good to show an example. As I said, visual explanations tend to work very well. When it comes to this kind of stuff, I just find the problem and then apply the solution to the problem, right? So, for example, here I say, oh, my drums aren't bright enough in the mix. I want them to be brighter. I guess there's a slight difference in volume there as well, but that's okay. That's something you can work around. There's no like standard way that I have to apply EQ to the drums, I then have to apply compression to the drums, I then have to apply distortion to the drums, and I then have to apply, what was the last thing that you said? Transient shaper to the drums. There's no standard way that I'm doing that. And when it comes to all of these plugins in here, they're always all in series. You want one to go into the next, so that the idea is, okay, I have this problem that I can fix with this plugin, then I have the next problem that I can fix with this problem. Oh, this plugin also introduces another problem. I need another plugin to fix that. Then it goes to the next one, right? So I have a transient shaper, which increases the attack over here, as an example. But that means that it's going to be a little bit too loud, and I want to clip that off. So I'm using clip shifter to clip it off. Oh, but I don't quite like how the tonality is or something like that. So, or maybe the clipper changes the tonality of the higher frequencies. That could be the case in this case. I don't remember. I did this mix like half a year ago. So then I go into the next thing. So it will always be in series, because from one, you go to the next, just in terms of the problems that you hear. Do I need to save anything? No. I don't like the noise that we get from this. That doesn't seem very necessary. Why is there this whole... I guess we just want this little wash there. I'm using it once more, so I need to check if that's gonna work as well. That was very loud, that synth there, by the way. But I think this works better. This is a very strange, noisy component to it. Did I make it like that? Is that why the attack is changing over here? Let's see. I think I can just turn off the B part and then not have that. I guess the attack also influenced when that noise comes up. So now we don't have that noise anymore. And it's just like... little flute thingy without the breathing in there. Cat's making biscuits. How are you doing? Welcome to the stream. Sorry. This one-shot group is getting too big. I can fully get the one-shot group in view, and that means that it's really hard to find the project structure. Because usually you can find that from like the bass line and where the drums are and the kick, I guess, and even to some regard the effects. Because you know, like if something starts here, then this is the start of a section, I guess. And if something rises up here, then probably there's a fill happening over here. But with the one-shots, it's really hard to tell. I think what I'm going to do is take a quick break. I want to do more work on this part over here later. Up until this point, we have just kind of cleaned everything up. But I do see that I've been live for almost 2 hours, which flew by very, very fast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on... which track? I guess I'll work, or I'll put on a new project that I've worked on. I think I've played this maybe once or twice before, but I hope that you guys will enjoy what I have here. This is from an upcoming album that I'm working on, and there's going to be much more interesting music just like this one, and a lot of it I won't spoil. I won't make any videos on it. I won't play in any live streams, so you have to be subscribed to the Eclipse channel whenever this album is coming out. But that's much later. As you can see, this is still production, so it's going to take another couple of months at least for me to finish that. Anyway, I'm taking a quick break, and then I'll be back, and then we'll continue working on some interesting stuff over here.
naturally, as you began on this adventure of dreams, you would fulfill all your wishes. Every kind of pleasure you could conceive. And then you would get more and more adventurous, and you would make further and further out gambles as to what you would dream. So in this idea then, everybody is fundamentally the ultimate reality.
How's my timing? Very good, apparently. Unless it played twice, but I don't think it did. Anyway, so that's the track. There's still a little bit of work that I need to do on it. I hope that you guys enjoyed that one. Locators question mark. I don't like to use locators in my project. As you can see, I mark out my project with this marker track over here. The reason for that is if I wanted to get into this kind of detail with locators, it would just be a mess of lines, right? Especially if you zoom out to the project here, if you line up locators to everything over here, it would just be a big mess. That would fix the issue of when I were like zoomed in into here and not knowing the structure. But even if you are maybe like zoomed in over here, it's either you're not going to be on the side of the locator, or it's just going to be one, and then yeah, you would write the structure thing in here. Like you would go break build, fill, drop. But then if you zoom out, right, you get all of those lines going down and it's just a big mess. It's hard to understand. There's another way that people use locators, and that is to just, I guess, like do every 16 bars, something like this, so that you have at least something that you can work with. Again, personally, I don't like it because I think it gets cluttered when you zoom out, and you can just use the numbers. My audio is kind of stuttery. Aha. I have been having some issues sometimes with my audio interface kind of doing strange stuff and cracking like that. I think it's a mismatch between sample rates that I'm hearing, because the pitch also goes down a little bit. I don't know why that is. I cannot find out. I've tried to convert like my whole signal chain to 44.1K. It didn't fix it, so I'm back at 48K. I just sometimes have to reset the voice meter audio engine, and this only started happening once I started using the mini fuse. This is one of those little things that I still need to figure out before I am fully converted into the new system with the monitors and everything, because it's annoying. It started happening with the mini fuse. I don't know if the mini fuse is the problem or if there's a different part of my system that is the problem. I mean, it started happening when I installed the mini fuse, right? So I'm assuming that that's what's causing the issue. But I don't know. Weird. Yeah, it is a weird problem. Anyway, I want to get to this part over here and see what we can do to go into here. Because right now, what do we have? Still not a fan of the snare that I have going on in here. Is it this one over here? I'm layering 2 snares. Yeah, this one. Why is this here again? Without it, it's lacking a little bit of punch. I think I like that more. I also think I don't want to go into this synth sound over here. It sounds a little bit wonky, so I'm going to delete this one. I'm not even sure if I'm going to keep any of these one-shots over here. Maybe we'll just start with a completely new idea. You know, just start from scratch with the idea for this part. I think I do want a proper transition into it, so we will probably do like maybe a big one shot over here that then delays out, and then it plays again over here and over here. Let's see if that works. Let's go with see if we can find something cool like an ARP or something. I'm too low maybe. Is YouTube changing the sound in terms of internet rate or transfer or something? No, at least not in regarding that problem with the audio interface, because I hear it as well when it does the thing. It sometimes just messes up. I've noticed it in certain projects more than in others, and for now I've only been able to get it to happen in Ableton. So it might be a compatibility issue between Ableton, Voicemeeter, and then my audio interface. Because essentially what happens is that this sits in between all of my audio stuff. So this is kind of like my mixer, right? It's a virtual mixer, so that would make sense. What this does is it takes my input, as you can see my microphone over here, and it takes all of the output. So this is, for example, Ableton, and it just sends it where it needs to go. So if I turn off this thing over here, you guys won't be able to hear Ableton, I think. If I turn off this over here, this is, for example, where other browsers and stuff like that. So Google Chrome goes into here. This one is just for Ableton. This is my microphone, and this is where I get audio for Zoom whenever I do stuff with Zoom. So this only goes to my speakers, and it doesn't go out to the virtual outputs, which I then can tap into. So that means that somebody that is calling me on Zoom will hear, it would be like this. They would hear my microphone, Ableton, anything else that they have, but not themselves. So that's how I can kind of separate different things. And I think this might be the issue. It can also be Ableton specific, but for some reason Ableton is just messing things up, because I haven't had this happen in Reaper. That being said, the projects that I load in Ableton are much heavier on the CPU than any Reaper project that I have. So it's the same quality as if we were sitting in your studio. Well, no, because Ableton, or because YouTube does do audio compression, but that's not what is causing the bad quality sound that you would that you heard before. That wasn't the problem that you heard before with the audio going all crispy and messed up. That's like something that I can hear as well. It's not a YouTube thing. Yeah, my YouTube streams aren't good enough for you to be able to say like, oh, I'm in your studio and you would hear it the same way that I hear it. There is going to be compression on that. I have it set to the maximum bitrate for audio, which I believe is like 160 something. Right? Stream. Oh, I cannot go into it. I cannot. I don't think I can. Or an output here. Output, yeah. 160 is the bitrate that I have. That's a kind of little pieces you not hear. What do you mean by that? How's the new monitors? Very, very good. I think I said it in the last... What's it called? The last conversations with Projector. I went into detail over the monitor, so I'm not going to repeat myself there. But they are very nice, yes. They sound much better than what I had before. Obviously, I mean, you've seen what I had before. If you saw the monitors video, it's a world of difference. One of the big things is that I used to have issues with, if I plugged in the headphones into the speakers, it would tilt one of the speakers. So I would unplug my headphones and then I would have to reposition my speakers, and the speakers just not being on stands and not being screwed into anything, they were much less stable. And now with the new monitors, they're always going to be in the same spot. So they're always going to be the same. The quality on YouTube is not so bad that you would hear them. You would definitely hear it in a mixing / studio setting, yes. Like the bitrate is so low that you should hear some fuzzy high frequencies if you're listening in like a studio setting. That it would definitely be noticeable. You shouldn't use my YouTube stream to, for example, reference your mix. Also because this isn't mixed, this is just production. But even if I were playing a master, for example, then it isn't high enough quality to be a good reference. And that's true for any music on YouTube. Even if you download a song from YouTube, you're going to hear that it's MP3 quality 160 bitrate. If you want to hear the difference, what you can do is you can just get a WAV file of your track and then convert that into 160 bitrate MP3 file. That will get you the same kind of compression, and you can hear that you're just missing some higher frequencies, and that the higher frequencies that are there just have a different texture to them. What do you think about to produce psytrance with FL Studio? Do it. I do not care about the gear that you're using. I already had Omnisphere on here. I was already playing with this. I need a good, strong one-shot kind of sound. Not that. I want something that is... I don't like this one. I like this. Let's remove any delay that may be on here. And let's just do our own delay with Echo Boy. I look away for a second. Did you already answer my question? I don't remember. Let me see. About the monitors, yes, I did answer that question. The other one, if I make a sound and there's a quiet part that I want to make way more louder, but I don't want the louder part to come out more, how do I do that? Well, there's this thing called a compressor. And what a compressor does is it takes in an audio signal, right? So if I open up M Dynamics, which is a compressor, it takes in an audio signal and you can compress the top of it. So you can smash off the top of it. Anything that exceeds, let me set this down and let me set this to like 6 dB. Anything that exceeds minus 6 dB is going to be compressed, right? So it's going to be smashed lower. Depending on attack and release settings here. So what that means is that if a sound used to be here in loudness, it's now going to be here in loudness. So you're lowering the dynamic range this way. And that means that if you then turn it up again, all of this is going to be boosted by 5 dB. This is going to be boosted back by 5 dB, back to where it was in terms of loudness. But the rest is going to be boosted higher. Hello there, with your monitor setup, have you treated your room/studio? If yes, to what extent? I have not treated my room whatsoever. The main reason for that is because I am planning to move away from here pretty soon again. The most guys use Ableton for psytrance. Is there any problem with FL Studio? Always see only Cubase, Logic, or Ableton. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can, if you're really persistent, you can make it in Audacity if you want to. Upwards compression. Upwards compression is... I don't even think we can do upwards compression in here. It is where essentially this graph were to look like this, where the quietest parts become boosted up. I don't think there's a way that I can do upwards compression in here. Unless it's something like this. Wait a second. I think this might be what I would want to do. Yeah, so this would be upward compression, I think. So the graph goes up, so the quietest parts become way louder, and then the louder parts relatively don't get as much loudness added. You can go even further and say like, okay, the loudest part is now getting quieter, but all of the lower stuff does become louder. I don't think this need matters, but here you have a need to kind of smooth out that curve a little bit if you want to. Is upwards compression similar to multiband? No. Multiband just means that you're splitting up the frequencies. So this is all single band, right? It acts on the whole frequency spectrum. What I can do is I can load a multiband instance here, and then I can basically have two versions of the compressor. I can have a compressor here that does something, and then I have this other compressor here which does another thing to the lower frequencies. What kind of compression or expansion they're doing is independent of the fact that they're multiband or not. Multiband just means this, that you have multiple different frequencies that you, or multiple different bands that each process different parts of the signal. It doesn't even have to be frequencies, because as you can see, there's tonal transient stuff. I can do mid-side here. So one is the mid band and one is the side band. And I can kind of choose between how much mid, how much side I want in each band. There's level over here, which is really interesting. Anything that exceeds a certain level in dBs gets treated by this band, and anything that does not exceed that level in dBs gets treated by this band. But there's like, yeah, there's multiple different ways of having multiband. The only requirement is that you're splitting up the signal into multiple different parts, processing those parts independently, and then summing them back together. I should not leave the compressors on. Sorry. Wait, what if I Control X, freeze this? Give it a second, it takes a little while. My KRK speakers have too much bass. Should I change them or lowering the bass EQ from the speaker on the backside? That's a very strange question. It's like saying what's a good metaphor for this? Our ward is closed today. Should I wash them or should I throw them out and buy new ones? I mean, if you can fix that problem with an EQ on the backside, it's better to do that with the EQ on the backside than spending a whole bunch of money that you may not have. By the way, I'll always hold that the gear doesn't matter. Even if you know that your speakers have too much bass, that doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, you compensate for that if you listen to music on those speakers. If you listen to a lot of professional music, a lot of reference material, you automatically start mixing your own stuff to sound like that. Over a long period of time, of course, you need to build up your skill set. But once you have that ear, once you know what everything is supposed to sound like on your mixers, you'll automatically start to work in a way that your stuff is going to sound the same way. This sounds pretty cool. I still don't like the lower frequencies. Maybe we can cut it up and reverse some of them again, back to the original. Like every other maybe. That would be fun. That's kind of cool. Needs more feedback, I guess. And it needs to fade in. It needs to not be as aggressive in the start. Need to reset this one. Here in this project, the bass doesn't need to be reset, which is funny, even still have the same rack on there. But for some reason, when I'm freezing it, it does not need to be reset. I think I'll leave this like it is. I think I want more like snares and stuff in here, like an actual proper build-up. See if we can find something cool, maybe a good snare. Maybe I already have a build-up in here. I should have one, right? Or is this the... Yeah, this is a very weak sounding snare. It does fit over here. But it wouldn't fit over here where there's no kick and bass playing. So I do have this other channel that I'm currently not doing anything with. Let's just delete it and start over with a different snare. What do you mean cause more room problems? When it comes to the issues of like room issues, what they mean is that there's the speaker doesn't only go to your head, right? With the sound that is coming out. It goes into the room as well, and it starts reflecting on the walls. That's why studios spend so much money on proper treatment, so those reflections don't cause any issues. You're not hearing the reflections anymore. You basically want to only hear the speakers, and not the sound bouncing off the walls, bouncing off the back, bouncing off the wall over that side. You don't want any of that. Because lower frequencies are more omnidirectional. That's not entirely true. They carry out more. Means that it takes more energy for them to go to a lower volume. Or technically not. It's just that their wavelength is longer. So it takes more space for them to go to a lower volume. They decay at the same rate. But because higher frequencies are faster. It's air moving very, very fast. It say that it takes like 20 cycles for a certain volume to stop completely, right? Then the high frequencies will stop in this amount of time because the cycle is very short. And then with bass frequencies, the cycle being so long, it will reflect a bunch of times in your room before it loses that power, it loses that energy. That's why bass frequencies tend to be bigger problems. Hence why I said more omnidirectional. But omnidirectional would mean that they go in more directions. It's not the case that higher frequencies only travel in one direction and the lower frequencies go in all directions. which according to science is actually very true. I've never heard that. I've never heard higher frequencies have a harder time traveling in multiple directions. What I've heard is that they just fade out quicker because their wave cycle is shorter. In fact, it would be very strange because that would mean that if you were to go off axis from the speaker, you suddenly don't hear the high frequencies anymore. It's not the case that I move back here and I stand up over here, for example, and now I don't hear my hi-hat. That just does not happen. The frequencies, the high frequencies, go into all directions. Even if I move behind my speakers, I can still hear my hi-hats. There are countless of articles on this. I mean, if you can show me an article, I don't think you guys can link in my chat, but maybe in my Discord, if you show me an article, that would be interesting. Because I've never heard of this being a thing. If you want, you can drop it right here in stream discussion of or conversation topics. Wanted to apologize for the backseat studio arranging again. Don't worry. The Adams are treating me very, very well. They are very nice, yes. I mean, I didn't really imagine much, because I knew it was going to be different, right, in terms of sound. I was scared that I was going to hear a lot of issues with my track that suddenly become apparent. That hasn't been that much the case. But I deliberately didn't set up any expectations of like, oh, it's going to be amazing, because I still know that the room is shit and anything like that. Yes, Guido, you're talking about perception now. You're not talking about generation. We were talking about sound generation coming from the speakers, but you're talking about the human perception of sound. That is true, because bass frequencies move your body, you don't hear them, so you cannot pinpoint a direction. But that has everything to do with the human psyche and nothing to do with how sound actually works physically. Yeah, the issue is going to be standing waves creating resonances, so boosting certain frequencies with respect to others, because their wavelength perfectly fits within one direction of the room. So from one wall to another. That creates the standing waves. That's an issue. But that has nothing to do with directionality, because the directionality that Guido is talking about solely has to do with somebody hearing it. And the things that we are talking about of how sound functions in a room is independent of if there's a human present to listen to it. I like this. This is a good snare. I should probably do that so that I can keep that. Let me just find tune for it, or the key. So this is in D, that means D sharp, E, F sharp. Now it becomes really thin, right? Lately, I've been trying to get more knowledge around filling the whole frequency spectrum. Would be interested in hearing some insight on that. That's not something that I care about. What I mainly care about when it comes to frequencies is that every element has its own space, not necessarily that everything is filled up. Because in a good production, that's going to be the case regardless, right? You can look at any spectrum here. Any part of the track is going to have mid frequencies, high frequencies, low frequencies, whatever. Here there's maybe a little bit less high frequencies. This is a part that is a little bit lower energy, so don't want those high frequencies in there. But overall, like that, it doesn't really matter that the frequency spectrum is always full. What is more important is that those elements that you put in there have the space to exist. Say if a part is a synth, high up and kick bass, should I add some mid-range something to fill out the space? Generally speaking, when it comes to psytrance synths, you should have your synths in such a way that they already generate mid-range. So I'm always playing at F-sharp 0 for any of my synths, which means that they're basically playing in the same register as my bassline, and then I just filter out everything that is directly clashing with my bassline. This is a bad example, but if I put it here, yeah, you can see I'm just removing the very low sub stuff that you don't need. But the mid-range is already taken care of partially by the synths here and partially by the bassline just existing in that spot as well. I never find myself in a place where, for example, one of my synths is playing 3 octaves above the bassline. So the kick and bass is like half the spectrum, so you only have 1K and up to work with. No. It is not that strict in the sense that you do have spaces where sounds merge, right? Because technically speaking, the bassline goes up to like 8K in terms of where that click exists. But that is so low volume that you still have space that you can put other stuff on top of that. And that's, for example, why you don't really hear the click existing anymore in this part. It just gets masked by those other frequencies. What is, for example, important, that a mistake that you could, for example, make is one like this, where you have something that is like actively causing harm to the bassline's most important part, meaning the sub bass, right? If I were to do something dumb like this, maybe, that's going to cause massive issues. We don't want any of that. So that's where you kind of separate frequencies. But it doesn't mean that, oh, I have the bassline going up until 1K, and then the synth goes from 1K to 3K, and then the hi-hats go from 3K to 5K, and then the snare goes from 5K to 7K, and so on and so on. It's not that tight of a thing. You are mixing, right? You're not separating. I know what I mean about our human perception and the ability to pinpoint where it comes from, but that's not what I was referring to. It does seem that way with the way that the copy paste is written before. I think that low frequencies do spread spherically and high frequencies do spread synergy. I don't think so. I don't think that there's a difference in terms of frequency spreading differently on higher frequencies, or that there's a different spread between the higher frequencies. Because if you really boil it down, what a frequency is just like a strength of a vibration. And at the end of the day, the way that sound transfers through a medium is that one atom starts to vibrate, and then the next atom starts to vibrate as well, and then the next atom starts to vibrate as well. I don't think that the speed of which the atom vibrates makes it so that different atoms start to vibrate. It should just all spread in the same way. They both spread the same way, they are just longer versus shorter waves. Yeah, what could happen is, say for example, I'm talking into the microphone and now I start talking away from the microphone. What that does, I guess, for the human mouth, it is a bit directional because you're pushing it through a tube. So you're already kind of giving a direction to the vibration, like forward, right? If you blow through a tube, the wind is going to go one way. But if it's unbound, then I don't think that there's like any difference in the way that sounds travel. But what could happen is if I move away from the microphone, you hear less higher frequencies because higher frequencies decay faster. So it takes a longer distance from the source to the microphone to be able to pick up. And therefore, because that distance becomes bigger, the higher frequencies start to decay more and more in between that they leave my mouth and that they get picked up by the microphone. And therefore, you get less higher frequencies because they just decay faster. Thanks for the stream. I would go to sleep. All of you have a great night, time/night. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you have a good night as well, or good sleep, whatever you prefer. What if I just do the faster bits? Because usually I don't like the very slow snare. I think it just sounds strange. But what if I just do like this part? And then of course we go 2, 3, 2, 3, something like this maybe. Maybe we'll double that. We'll go to 6 here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Maybe this makes sense. All waves tend to spread out at the edge when they pass through a gap or past an object. To happen, the wave must be larger than the object. Have high... I don't even know what you're saying, to be honest. If let's stick with the basic idea that sounds exist in a vacuum and that there's no objects and no perception and anything like that, because the human perception plays a role in that. The positioning of any objects has to play a role in that. We can start off with the basic assumption that all sound is just atoms vibrating against each other, right? What happens with, for example, a standing wave is that those vibrations happen to align with the length of the room. In that how would you translate that into the vibration of one thing? I guess the kind of like Newton's, those balls, Newton's cradle, I think it's called, the balls that you have, where if the ball falls on the left side, then the ball goes back up on the right side, and you have those 5 little metal balls that bounce back and forth. You know what I mean? That's what's happening in the air as well, with the atoms that are vibrating. I don't see any reason why an object being placed in that would change that. Because I'm trying to figure out what that would mean in a practical sense as well. And that would mean that if I were to take like a tube and talk into that the highest frequencies wouldn't come out, that you wouldn't be able to hear the higher frequencies. I don't think that's the case. I think what we need in this part is melodic synth coming in here and then playing another like melody thing in here, just kind of like what we have here, but a different synth. Or maybe, and this is a real cool idea maybe, let's try and see what happens if we just do the same synth, just kind of like starting to play here. I would need this amount of stuff here then, right? Let's just reset all of these quickly. There. Diffraction is the bending of waves through around small objects and spreading out wave through small openings. I think diffraction doesn't that have to do with quantum physics? Isn't that the double slit experiment, for example? Because then it would be at a much smaller amount than sound would be, I assume. Oh, it does take place with sound. And with very small moving particles such as atom newtons. Is dependent on the size of the gap. It's hard to say how big of an issue this, or how small of a gap it has to be, because if we're talking about like this big of a gap, like a few microsections or micrometers or whatever, like a very, very small gap on the level of quantum physics, then it's not going to impact anything practical. It's not going to impact the way that your speakers are positioned, which is where this discussion started. Also, nobody has a slit like this in their room between their speakers and their like ears. What is the longest session that you've ever had? To be honest, I've done whole days in the studio where I just wake up, sit down, get a creative boost, and just start producing till the end of the day. And that just kind of happens. But I wouldn't be able to give you like an exact number. Maybe like 12 hours, something like that. Of course, during that session, I've stood up and made myself food. I've taken breaks. I take regular breaks. I've maybe had like half an hour of time where I was just like, okay, I'm going to pause for a little bit and I'm going to watch some YouTube videos in the meantime or something like that. But I've had like whole days where I would just work on one thing, one project, and just spend my time working on that throughout the whole day. At the end of the day, this is my job. So I treat it as a job. I wake up, I start doing it, and then I do it the whole day, and then I stop it. Actually, I treat it more as a job, because people go home from their job, and then they stop working on that, and I don't tend to do that, funnily enough. I'm not sure. I don't like it, I don't think. Maybe let's see if we can get a new melody that works a little bit better. Do you plan on become a music/sound scientist? I was studying for that, but I stopped it because it was hella boring. It was only involving math and stuff like that, and that's not actually what I like. I like the technical things that I do within Ableton and sound design, I guess, purely for the fact that it allows me to be creative. And that is what was missing from my studies back when I used to study musical engineering. Because it would only be the technical stuff for technicality's sake. There was no real creative end goal with it. So that's the reason, I guess, I decided to stop pursuing that. We would talk about things like speaker design and the electronic circuit behind like a mixing console without actually getting to use speakers or a mixing console. Make it a little bit more of a pleasant sound so that we can probably going to go for I get what you're saying, Guido, but that doesn't mean that in general, lower frequency waves are more directional than higher frequency waves. Your initial statement was that higher frequencies are less directional than lower frequencies, which would essentially mean that there would be, for example, position in the room because of the way that the speakers are positioned and the way that they're outputting their sound, that you would have parts of your room where you could only hear the low frequencies. That might be true because of other things, because of acoustics and something like that, but not because of the directionality of sound. Like it will never, I don't think it will ever be the case that you can stand somewhere in the room and just not hear the hi-hats, but hear the rest of the track, because the hi-hats are only high frequencies. Even in a closed room, it's not relevant because there's nothing in between the monitors and your face for the sound to deflect, whatever the thing was that you talked about before. I just need to find the melody. I'm maybe a little bit focused on the sound right now. We might be able to do... This might be cool to apply here then. It depends on what you mean with omnidirectionality, Greedo. I don't know what you exactly mean with omnidirectionality. I'm thinking about starting my career as a Psytrance DJ and producer after 12 years of producing and practicing progressive house and big room house music. What do you think about it? I mean, what do you want me to say? Yeah, it's going to happen. I cannot guarantee you a career. If that's what you're asking. You should try it. You should see what happens. But you can never be sure before you start. There's this fun mindset that I also talked about in my Sound Design is Easy video, where people expect somebody like me to have learned everything there is to know about sound design and then learn sound design. But that's not the case. You start doing things and then you learn how to actually do those things. So if you've never made psytrance and you want to start a career in making psytrance, start making some psytrance, see if it works for you, see if other people like it, and if that does seem to be the case, then go do that. Omnidirectional, I think, just means less directional. Yes, but exactly how, right? Because we've talked about this situation in terms of monitors. We've talked about situations in terms of generation. We've talked about this in terms of perception. Because in perception, I can see that. I can see that bass frequencies are harder to identify where they're coming from than higher frequencies. Because you can hear higher frequencies, but you can only feel bass frequencies. But if you say they are omnidirectional, in what sense do you mean? How much was that keyboard? My parents got it before I was born. So I don't know. I think I will stick with the lower octave here. I have this kind of high pass in maybe. meant physically. Okay. I personally don't think that that's the case. I don't know. I would need to research that more. I might do that after the stream if I have the energy to do so. How do you tell if something is too wide? There's two ways. One is the perception. I want the width to be a certain way. I want to find an example of stereo processor here. I want the width to be a certain way just on the feel of it. Do I want this sound to come from here or do I want the sound to come from here? Kick and bass, I want it to be mono, right? I want it to come from around here, from around the center. I want that stability from it. Same with the drums. I don't want this to spread out and be all over the place. I want it to be stable in the middle, in the center. The other thing that you can do is just like a check that we often do with Signalizer, right, when I'm listening to feedback, which is where it just subjectively is too wide. So, where's Signalizer? I should have Signalizer in here, right? In tools, maybe? Yeah. Okay. Here you can see if it's too wide, it will go out of phase. It will start to cancel with itself. Fair enough, I also don't know. Yeah, I'm not saying that I know. I'm just saying that from my experience, it doesn't sound likely that lower frequencies, for some reason, for some physical reason, have that more, like, are able to move around corners more or anything like that. Like if your mother yells from downstairs, those are pretty much no bass frequencies, but you can still hear it, even though it's moving from the kitchen through the living room, up the stairs, through the hallway, into your room. You still hear that. So and I don't know. It's not like it sounds muffled, with respect to like just standing next to her for something like that. Like I'm trying to link this idea of directionality to something that I know physically, right? That I've experience with. And I think the thing that you're confused with is just the fact that higher frequencies in general tend to spread out less from a point source. From like if you had a point in space and their sound would start to generate, the high frequencies would travel less distance before you cannot hear them than the low frequencies. But that doesn't mean that low frequencies go in more directions. They both go in all directions. The low frequencies just go further. I like how Shadow Rage has completely lost the plot in terms of conversation. I know that he is the guy that starts asking random questions sometimes when the chat is a little bit down, but I'm currently having a conversation and I just see all kinds of strange things being typed that even one message after the other don't mean sense with it. Well, it would mean that all these articles are confusing it. I don't know. I would need to look into it. I would need to see all of the articles. Again, I would invite you to send them here or here. Something like that. I could make a topic of that. We could discuss this in here if you have any articles that we want to listen to or that we want to look at. To come back to Shadow Rage though, I don't want you to stop typing. I don't want you to I don't want you to stop asking your weird questions, but if I'm having a conversation, and even if you are trying to ask me questions, can you at least have it so that one message and the message that you type exactly below that have some cohesion between them? Because it's really hard to understand you, right? Have you ever been to Verona? I like playing weird frequencies to dogs. It's nothing. It is very funny. Every person in chat has its own personality. That's one of the cool things about being a small content creator, is that you still get to experience every single personality. If you promise you won't kill the messenger. Have I ever been aggressive towards you for saying the stuff that you said about this topic? I don't think so. I'm drinking yogurt, maybe there's something in it. I always thought that you would eat yogurt. Discuss. I was told that I jump from topic to topic. I mean, it's very true. I can definitely see that being the case. But I do like having those like different personalities in the chat. It would be much more boring if you were just like everybody else. Just the same kind of way of chatting. Not that everybody else is like unified in any way. I do still see differences between people, but for you it's very clear that you are the one that is speaking, because you just move from topic to topic. And nobody really works that way. Nobody really speaks that way. To be honest, I'm getting really tired of this project. I was trying to get like a melodic idea sitting in here. I just don't know what element I can put in here that would also work for this segment over here. What we can try is just not to care. Delete this track and whatever else I have in here, like some sweeps and stuff like that. I don't need this. I don't need this. I will take this and put that here. And I will make a little fill here by going bam, bam. This is the last thing I'll try, and if this doesn't work, then I'm ending the stream for today, because it hasn't been an inspiration boost working on this part of the project, to be honest. Yeah, so now we have everything cut out here, and I can just go take everything and just like move it here, for example. Why is this not? For some reason, deleting this deletes the automation. Thank you, Ableton. Deleting the automation point exactly at the point that you're deleting should not delete that automation point. It should keep it there. It's more this claim that I'm merely just translating what I've been told. Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't like to, like, what is it? What you say? Kill the messenger or hurt the messenger or anything like that? I don't like to do that. I think it's if you're providing some information to the stream, then I shouldn't batter you. I should try to maybe criticize that information. So I wouldn't do that, no. Sorry for the distraction, by the way, was not my intention. If I didn't want to be distracted, I shouldn't have streamed. That's completely on me. I stream because I like the conversation and stuff like that. I'm just getting like annoyed with this project in general. Even if I wasn't streaming at this point, I would have called it quits on the project. It's okay to kill the message itself. Yes, exactly. Do you have some non-Psytrance projects? No recent projects, no. I mean, I experiment. Sometimes I try to make a techno kick or whatever, but I don't have any recent finished songs that isn't psytrance. I have old stuff, like 5 years old, but I don't even think that I have the projects anymore for that. What do you do with projects like that when you hit a wall? I just close them. I have enough projects to work on, and partially for the stream, I don't close it now and move on to a different project, and I kind of force myself to do it. I partially force myself to work on it because I know that eventually I'm going to get some results if I just try hard enough. But if I wasn't streaming, to be honest, I would have started working on another project by now. Because it's part of the incentive is to have a cohesive stream, to always be working on the same project and always even in like the same section, right? I've talked about this in the last conversations when somebody asked about ADHD. Maybe that was even you, Kat, who said like ADHD moment, and then I ranted a little bit about how my ADHD makes me, when I'm normally producing, go all over the place. Like I'll work on something here, I'll work over something there. And the same is true when I'm not feeling a certain project. I'll just move on to another project. I have like 7, 8 projects that I can work on. So I can just open up a different one. What are the genres that you tried and failed at, like was really not your thing? I mean, failing is always subjective. I would argue that everything that I did before psytrance is something that I failed at, looking at how well my career is going now versus what I was doing before that. Because before I started doing psytrance, I had no career in music whatsoever, right? In fact, I would argue that the only reason that I have a career now is because I started doing the tutorials and all of that stuff together. And through doing that and through really learning psytrance, I learned how to actually make professional music. I don't think if you go back to my music from before then, anything would sound professional. I say would because I don't actually have any of the music anymore. Like, I don't keep that stuff around. So for me, personally, everything failed. But somebody else may have enjoyed it and may have liked the kind of music. I don't think I've ever produced a genre where I just opened up a project, tried it once and said like, no, this is really not for me. The only conclusion that I can usually draw if I do that is like, okay, this project just sucks, and if I want to do this again, I should try it again. I feel like I've been stuck just trying to get one thing done. Should I just do 8 different projects? I mean, this is what works for me. Everybody's going to have their own method of breaking the writer's block, as they say. But for me, having multiple projects, especially in different stages, like one is a mixing project, one is in early production, one is like finishing up details, one is halfway through writing, stuff like that. Having different stages of different projects really helps me because it allows me to work in different kind of mindsets. One is very detail oriented, one is like very big idea, one is very technical in that I'm mixing and I'm not really writing anymore. So whatever I feel like to do, I can just do that. Part of the reason that I'm able to do that is, again, this is my job. I spend the whole day working on either music or something related to music, videos, stuff like that, right? So it is, I guess, a little bit easier for me to maintain that many projects and also have them be this size with this many tracks and everything sounding the way that I want it to sound, because it does take a lot of time to make something like this, right? It's not something that you quickly do. So to say to somebody who maybe has like 2 or 3 hours a week to produce, you should have 8 projects all at different stages, and you should do full mixing projects, and you should export all of your tracks like I do, and then mix them in a different DAW. That's not realistic. So you need to find your own version of that. Which different thing can you do in your workflow that makes you more creative? I agree with Spectrum of Sounds. There is a truth in that. It's both inspiring to know that you're doing better with your music, and it's terrible knowing that all people ever are going to hear as like full releases is what you were capable of last year or half a year ago in terms of your skill, right? Like I'm currently working, as I said, on a second album, and I want to do 10 tracks. The last tracks that you guys have heard of me have been, or has been, I guess, the EP in terms of recency of production. And even that EP, I started producing that 2 years ago with the first tracks from that I started working on for that particular EP. So that means that some of the music that is coming out now, I guess the last stuff that came out was recently, the Eclipse stuff. I completely forgot about that. But even that, I started working on that more than a year ago, I should say. Yes, because I started working on that before the 4 producers 1 beat video came out. Remember that? Like January last year, I posted that video where 4 people got the same sidetrans kick and bass, and they all had to make synths and stuff on top of that. Or actually beat. I think it also included like the top drums and crashes and stuff like that. But I started working on at least one of the tracks before I posted that video. So the stuff that came out 2 weeks ago with the launch of Eclipse, the 23rd of January, was made over a year ago. So I always feel like you guys are kind of catching up to my ability as a musician. Now, obviously, you guys are hearing what I'm making now during the live stream, but it's a little bit strange that, or it's a strange feeling knowing that the music that is out there representing who you are as an artist is always going to be your old stuff. Shall I put the link in Technical Talk? Whatever, yes. Either Technical Talk, or if you want to discuss it on the stream, you can post it in here as well. I have direct messages and friend requests. Are there any movies you're looking forward to? No, I am not much of a movie guy. The only entertainment that I consume in like video format would be YouTube. I used to care a lot more about movies. Like I used to watch a lot more movies. I would used to go to the cinema with friends and stuff like that as well. And I still do for my friends, right? Like if my friends ask me, hey, do you want to go to the cinema? I'll still say yes. But there's not really any movie anymore that feels like it really captures me, that feels like a story that I actually want to see. And I have perfect alternatives that are completely free on YouTube that I can just easily access. So for me, going to the movies, I don't find it interesting enough, to be honest. Post it in the stream discussion. Let's have a look at this article and then I'll probably finish the stream here. The audio block. Why high frequencies are directional and low aren't. When discussing good sounding rooms, I mentioned that low frequencies are omnidirectional while high frequencies are directional. Absorb the latter than the former. From the source, while high frequencies are planar, you're looking down from the parallel lines emitted from the source. I would like to see these diagrams drawn out because I don't know what they are interpreting here. Like even so, this not to kill the messenger, but it is. If I were to present something like this at the university that I would study, the professors would say like, this is way too vague with what you're saying. What kind of source? How, like, you would at least have one diagram in here, and you would need to explain what kind of source there are. You would also need to define what you mean with high and low, right? Because I'm assuming that there's some kind of crossover happening between the spherical properties of the low frequencies and the planar properties of the high frequencies. So where would that crossover be? How steep is that crossover? All of that you would need to kind of know before you can make a proper conclusion from that. Because if I see the word source, I immediately assume point source, right? Which is just, if this is a room, you just make the smallest possible point that you can make. Boop, like that. You guys cannot even see that. I'll make it a little bit bigger just for you guys to see. And this represents the speaker in any diagram, right? And the reason why they do that is because that simplifies some of the calculations that you have to make. You don't have to take into account the physical disk width, for example, but you can all concentrate that on one single point in space. So when I see the word source, I automatically go to point source, which means that by definition, you cannot have parallel lines emitting from that. So it's really hard to understand these very technical things because often they lack the technical terms that really explain it well enough to understand, that give you enough detail to make the picture in your mind. First off, I lied, all sound waves are spherical. Okay, I should have read more. Is the relationship between the size of the room we're in and the source with respect to the wavelength of the frequency that we're looking at. Simply planet Earth. Now, unless you are part of vegetables. Is give or take a sphere. Okay. A linear measured. At meters. I'm sorry that I'm not reading this out loud. I'm trying to read it quickly so that I can form a conclusion. So in here, they're just explaining that it's a problem of scale, right? We don't see the Earth as round because the length that you have to go away to go down a certain amount is way more than you can experience in any normal amount of time. If you were to start walking, you would essentially start walking on a curve, but it looks straight to us because for the length that you're walking in, say, a day, you only go down a very small amount. And actually, the reason why we don't experience curvature has not so much to do with the amount of going down versus the amount of going further away on the Earth, but it's the fact that by moving, your position relative to the center of mass changes, which technically is a little bit different here because this assumes, what do you call it? Stationary point of reference. Well, if you're walking around the Earth, you don't have a stationary point of reference because your point of reference moves along with you. That being said, let's continue. You can perceive the physical, the curvature is imperceptible. Yeah, this is essentially what they mean. Because the physical world, the Earth is so big and the curvature is so minimal, we don't actually perceive it. A room is usually a volume at a single meter scale or 10 feet scale. Sources are loudspeakers or mouse or something at that scale. High frequency sound waves are many times a second. 10 kilohertz waves repeat 10,000 times a second. That means that each air oscillation is very short, 0.03 meters. Okay. 3 centimeters for 10 kilohertz. This is 10 kilohertz. That is bigger than I thought it would be, to be honest. But then again, like low frequencies, I know like 50 hertz is 14 meters or something like that. So there is a big difference in scale there. The scale of the wave is much smaller than the scale of the room and source. See, as the scale of the wave is so much smaller than the scale of the room and the source that, exactly as for our human scale with Earth, we can consider it as flat and hence directional. Aha! This is where it becomes interesting. I think I understand what they mean. When they say directional, I think what they mean is not that the sound has a preference in terms of direction that it spreads out in that, say that you have a speaker comb over here that is producing sound. It's not like it is directional in that it wants to go this direction or does not want to go here, right? That it does not want to go there. Something like that is not the case. I think what they mean is that if you were observing the speaker head on, so this is the speaker comb, and this is the center of the speaker comb, the little dot that sits in the center, high frequencies come to you flat as a plane. So out of one direction as parallel lines towards you, whereas lower frequencies come from all over the place. Because they have time to reflect a bunch of times. I think that is the point that they're saying. And I think that this again shows how important it is to define your terms. Because I thought that with directionality and omnidirectionality, especially because the word omni, it means all directions, right? Like there's a preference for one direction if you're not omnidirectional. That's how I interpreted it, but I don't think that that's what they're trying to say. I think what they're trying to say is, given a sound wave, if it's high frequency, you can think of it as a plane moving to you, a flat surface moving to you, which is that surface of sound. Whereas for low frequencies, because they are standing waves and all kinds of acoustic problems, you cannot really think of it that way. Yes, essentially because low frequencies have longer wavelengths. They have more time to interact with the wall, and I think that has to do with the property that because they have longer wavelengths, they take longer space to decay, right? Because a high frequency, say that it takes 3 oscillations to decay, it will look something like this, and a low frequency will look something like this. So there's just more space for it to go from the high peak to silence, from the high peak to silence, right? If you play them both frequencies at the same volume, the lower frequency will travel for longer, and therefore it can create more standing waves. It can interact more with the acoustics of the room, and therefore it seems omnidirectional. And more bouncing. Yes, exactly. Yeah, fundamentally disagree with the article right off the bat. I liked it. They did indeed trick us into reading further. Right here. It's the image is positioned tactically. I stopped reading here and I started analyzing everything as well. I should have just continued reading. It's indeed very, very interesting. I like this kind of stuff. I like learning this kind of stuff. The only reason why I like learning this kind of stuff is because I would like to know how it makes my music better. And that is what was missing from university. We learned everything regarding this. I probably would have come across this if I went into the acoustic field instead of the musical engineering. Because there was 2 sides of it. There was musical engineering and acoustics engineering. If I had done acoustic engineering, I would have for sure known exactly what this was talking about. But this is very interesting. I was going to say I'm going to read this further, but it seems that there's not much more to read to it. I think I get what they are trying to say here. It's not directionality in that the sound has a preference to travel, but it's a directionality in that you can think of a high frequency. If you're sitting in one space in the room and the speaker is another space in the room, from your perspective, it's feeling like all of the high frequencies come from that speaker, whereas the low frequencies kind of come from everywhere. So I can safely say it now, or will you still kill me? I will hire a hitman. Yes. No, it's true. But it's only true in a perceptual way. I think it isn't true in a physical way, in that all sound waves are spherical. But in a room with normal proportions, like they are explaining here, you can approximate it like that, essentially. You can just kind of say like, okay, we don't have to care about the higher frequencies because the higher frequencies are only going to come directly from the speaker because they are directional. Are there things that you mix in mono only? There are a few things that I mainly keep mono. So the kick is completely mono for me. The bassline lowest few harmonics, I would say, are mostly mono. Like you can see here, I have a stereo spread on it. It's only affecting 320 Hz and above. So anything below that is going to be more mono. Now there's a slight roll off because this is a filter. It's not like below this frequency, nothing is going to be stereo. It's just going to roll off like that. I also have the focus, so it focuses a little bit more on the higher frequencies within this band. Other than that, I like to have my top drums mainly mono. Sometimes I like to layer a little bit of reverb on top of them and stuff like that. But it's very subjective kind of, because it's almost like anything that needs to be central needs to be fairly mono. Even some cases like vocals would work more if they're more mono. But in general, I do like to stereoize most of my things, I should say. The main golden rule that everything should, or that something should be completely mono, is the kick and the lowest frequency of the bass, the sub bass, right? The lowest harmonic of the bass line. Those two things, in my opinion, should be completely mono without question. And then even in this, the first or the second harmonic, I guess. Again, I still don't know if it's the first harmonic after the fundamental or the second harmonic because the first harmonic is the fundamental. I'm going to call it the second harmonic. So the harmonic above the fundamental, even that can already be a little bit stereo. But the sub bass and the kick should be completely mono. We can safely say that it's likely to be harder to treat and tame. The lower frequencies, yes. Because they have more standing waves and all of that stuff. If the source sound is mono, how do you force stereo on it? You use a stereonizer. Like the one that I showed before, like M stereo spread, there is a process in here where it is spectrally split up in 26 bands. So it takes this frequency range, it splits it up into 26 bands, and then it makes a difference in the left channel and the right channel so that there's differences in there. Because stereo width is the amount of difference between the left and the right channel. If something is completely mono, the only thing that means is that the left and the right channel are doing the exact same thing in terms of what the speakers are doing, how the speakers are like moving, right? So I have a speaker here that's moving like this, I have a speaker there that's moving like that. If they're doing the same thing, it's going to sound like the sound is coming straight from there, straight from the middle. If this is going like this, if they're doing different things, it's going to come from the side because we can hear that, oh, that one is doing something different than that one. The fundamental is indeed the first harmonic. The first overtone is the second harmonic. I should teach myself to then say it like that, because I've been saying fundamental, first harmonic, second harmonic, third harmonic, and that's not the true. It should be fundamental, second harmonic, third harmonic, and so on and so on. Maybe I should just start using the term overtone, but it's something that I've never been able to teach myself. So you can clone them and pan? No, because then you're taking a sound that is equal and then you pan it left and right. So you have in the left channel and in the right channel the same sound. So it goes back to mono. What you want is differences in those sounds. What you could do is, for example, say that you want to make something stereo. Take a hi-hat, pan it left, take a copy of that hi-hat, pan it right, and then make some change to it. Add maybe a reverb on the left one and a chorus on the right one. Something like that. There need to be differences in the channel. But to be honest, making something stereo, the best way to do it is just with a plugin like this, like a stereo spreading tool. What is this one doing, by the way? Ah, this isn't doing anything. Oh, this is for here. Yes. I was confused by why this was here, but it does make sense. Does the stereo spread just introduce different delays? I am not entirely sure what exactly it does. Any delay-based processing. It is a very complicated IIR filter whose own a phase alteration from the left channel and others from the right channel in such a way that the mono output will give the original signal again. The main difficulty is making this approach sound natural and avoid moving the stereo position out of the center. The other which provides very high transparency, very natural sound, and keeps the stereo location in the center as much as possible. I have had problems with it moving out of the center by introducing this particular, or by using this particular tool. So what it's doing is it's filtering out frequencies differently from the left and the right channel. Are you happy with the monitor so far? This is like the 5th time this stream alone that people have asked me. Yes, I'm very happy. By the way, my head hurts, so does mine. You're not the only one. I am going to stop streaming today. I think out of all of the topics that we have discussed, maybe 2 or 3 of them are going to be able to be put into the conversations with projector thing that I'm doing now. Because today was a little bit all over the place. The first half of the stream, I barely noticed that it went by. It was time for my break before I even knew it. I just looked at it and it was like 1 hour and 40 minutes. I thought I'd been streaming for an hour. And now the second half was very, very technical and a lot of discussion. Which I like, but it drains a lot of energy. So I am going to quit for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I hope you guys enjoyed the little technical talk that we did. I'm going to see if I can edit this into something of a recap. If I can take some of the interesting topics and make a video out of that. The next one, by the way, is coming very, very soon. So keep your eyes out for that. As well as other videos. I'm not posting tomorrow. I'm posting in 2 days again. Because that's how my timing is working out. I need to finish editing them today. And then I need to do the whole upload process tomorrow. Which is like a whole day job if I have 4 or 5 videos to do. What does my hoodie say? Can you read this? I'll make it full screen. I cannot see it myself because it's right under my massive chin. But Hoodrich. I can see it in OBS. That's why I can read it. But yeah, there's more interesting content coming out. There's some cool stuff that I'm experimenting with in taking a musical project and just going through the whole project based on one topic. So for example, Universal Mantra is a very sample-based track, so I'm talking about sampling there. I am talking about my mixing mindset for the track Beyond, which is the other one of the other 2 tracks that I made for Eclipse as a single for myself. And then in the collaboration track that I did with Subject Ultra, I'm probably going to dedicate a video to how you would set up a collaboration and how you would work out a collaboration like that. So those 3 videos, keep an eye out on those. Other than that, Sunday I'll be back for another feedback stream, and I don't have any other announcements other than that. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Go check out my music on Eclipse, and I hope to see you next time.